Hello everybody, John Fulford here. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. We're here in my new video studio. As you could hear and see, we're still trying to finalize the design, the layout, the sound baffling around me, so my voice should be a little echoey right now. We're gonna fix it, but I had to get this out to say hello to everybody, to talk with y'all. I haven't talked with y'all in a while, but we got the facility pretty much up and running, so we're gonna be able to do this regularly. I won't have to schedule this with anybody. I don't have to go to a studio. This is my spot, so let's do it. This episode is about how and why I started a worm farm. If you've been following my social media, my Instagram, my this and my that, you're seeing a lot of posts referring to worms, talking about worms, photographs of worms, and the like. So I wanted to do this episode about why and how I started a worm farm. As you hear the birds outside, they're probably digging for worms. See? And how it applies to the music business, my music business, the entertainment business, business at large, okay? So first, let's start with the why, okay? In my opinion, the entertainment business and the music business is ephemeral, okay? There's music, it's an art, it's the arts, right? You hear it, you feel it, you go to a concert, you see people perform it on stage, it's ephemeral. But I can't tell you, or you can't tell me to go to the store and get a can of music. It doesn't, you can't pick music up and hold it. Yes, there's sheet music, if you want to split hairs here, you could hold a CD, a record, one of those. You could hold a hard drive full of music, but you can't hold music. Flowers you could hold, a laptop you could hold, but you can't hold music. That means it's ephemeral, okay? It's in the air, okay, which is fine, okay? But I wanted to do something non-ephemeral. So if someone asked me what I did, for instance, what was your new business about? Oh, it's the music business. Oh, what do you do? Well, we ba 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 ba. That's ephemeral. What's your new business? We're worm farming. You get it, right? We're worm farming. There's nothing more. We're worm farming because it's non-ephemeral. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to use buzzwords like disruption or API or all this other stuff. So I wanted to do something in that regard. I've never done anything like that before. Okay, I've never done anything like that. So that's why I wanted to start something. I originally was thinking about bees. It's still something I want to get into in the future, but with bees, you need a lot of land, because you can't be growing bees when there's other people walking around. You don't want anyone to get stung and get hurt, right? So you need a lot of land for that, and there's a lot going into bees. You can't just set up bees. But with worms, it's very, 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 very easy to get started, especially relative to things like the music business and the entertainment business. You could put 1,000 worms per square feet of space, area space. So you have like a Rubbermaid tub that's 2 feet by 1 feet. You could fit 2,000 worms in that tub safely. If you're an expert worm grower, you could fit more. But for now, we're going to do 1,000 worms per square feet, right? And you could put that, some people raise worms under their sink. I have an off-site facility for my worms. You won't see any worms around the YouTube space here, although I did have them in here for a couple days as I got some new worms in. I want to make sure they adjusted properly. So that's the why. I just wanted to do something. Growing potatoes I thought about, which I'm still going to do in buckets for fun to learn how to do it. But you can only grow 3 or 4 potatoes per bucket. You'd have to have a line of buckets. It's just I didn't have the land at the time. I just closed on some acreage out in rural Florida on Friday though, so now I kind of do have the land, but I'm going to turn that into a Airbnb glamping property. More on that in subsequent episodes. But worms you could grow pretty much anywhere. It doesn't even really have to be temperature controlled unless your temperatures are extreme hot or extreme cold. That rhymes. So let's talk about how I started the worm farm, how exactly I got into the worms. So I had the thought, but let's discuss how the thought became action. So I'm driving out to rural Florida more and more lately, looking at land, looking at properties, looking at opportunities. And I saw some properties that Maserati Steve would love. would love. I showed some LA people the properties over the internet and they didn't get it. They didn't get it, but Maserati Steve gets it. So I said, Steve, why don't you come into town from Jacksonville? We'll have a look at these properties. Let me know what you think, because if Maserati wasn't vibing with them, then it's just, I'm wrong. But if Maserati was digging them, then I know I'm right, and my vision for the properties is sound, no pun intended. So on the way back and forth, I would pass a bait shop, and I would say, I bet they sell worms at the bait shop. And then I was meeting Maserati Steve one morning out there, and I decided to, let me turn myself up a little bit, yeah. So I decided to walk into bait shop and ask if they needed any worms. Now, their response to me would be a great barometer if growing worms would be a good business, okay? A good business, not just a good idea, a good business. So I walked in the shop and I said, hi, my name's John. And they're like, okay. And I said, I'm starting a worm farm. Do you think you'd ever need any worms? And they said, what kind? How much do you got? What's your price? We need worms now. Do you have them with you right now? What's your phone number? What's your business card? We need worms now. I said, oh my God. I didn't know it would be this good, right? I didn't know the worms would be this in demand. So I said, let me get back with you in 2 to 3 weeks. Once I had worm stock, not worm stock, GameStop stock, but livestock, worms to sell. And then I went and met Steve and our realtor at the property, and I said, I'm starting a worm farm. So that night I went home, I ordered some worms, I got the bedding, the worm beds prepared. I'm gonna do a separate video on my Hollywood John channel, my Hollywood John YouTube channel, about how to start a worm bed for basically no money, just from stuff around the house. And then Steve came back to Gainesville, and I said, I think I'm starting a worm farm. This bait shop really wants worms. And we were doing some other stuff here in town for another couple hours, and I said, let me call a couple other bait shops and see what the demand is. So Steve's sitting next to me. We're in the Chipotle parking lot, to be precise. And I called another bait shop and I said, hi, I'm starting a worm farm here in town. And the guy goes, whoa. What type of worms? What's your price? I said, oh my gosh. Well, okay. Then I call up another bait shop in town. I go, hi, my name is John. I'm starting a worm farm. He goes, whoa. We can't order worms from you. And I go, okay, here's the shoe that's going to drop. Here it is. So we can't order worms from you. You have to call our other office. Here's the phone number. Talk to this gentleman. He'll get you set up. We need worms. Okay. So I called that office. So now, by the time I left the house, to the time I'm at Chipotle with Steve, it's maybe 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours later. I now have 3 customers. I have 3 worm customers already. So it's an issue of supply and demand, but now the demand is what is it? The demand is bigger than the supply, okay? The demand is exceeding, that's the word. The demand is outpacing, exceeding the supply. Now, contrast that with the music business, with the entertainment business, when a big money music supervisor back in the day, who's not even music supervising anymore, but he was at the pinnacle of success back in the day, says, meaning music supervisors, we're the only buyers in a room full of sellers. So there's intense downward pressure on price, there's intense downward pressure on terms, because the supply is just so robust, right? Like, how many songs are out there about going out tonight under the city lights, shining bright, living our best life, right? Yay. Or how many songs are out there about someone regaining their crown and retaking their throne? Or how many songs are out there about imagining the future? Or how many songs are out there about we will, rise up, rise again, yada, yada, yada. There's just so many, right? Where you're approaching a licensee saying, well, I have music that sounds like Katy Perry. They go, great, we just hired Katy Perry to do the song that we need done, right? So it's a hard road to get business. You still get business. I have business, but it's a hard road. You're always starting from square one. But it's just easier to get the squares when you have proof that you've already had squares. Okay. But in the worm game, I know it's pretty weird to say, in the worm game, people need worms. People need worms. So now I'm getting my logo printed, I got my LLC formed, I'm getting my tax ID number, I'm getting my bait dealer's license. Okay, I'm getting a bait dealer's license. How cool is that? To start moving some worms. Now let's talk about worms real quick. And I'm gonna have some hustles and side hustles, because not all hustles are side hustles, but all side hustles are hustles. I'm gonna have some hustles and side hustles for y'all to think about doing if you wanna do it. Okay, if you wanna do it. So let's talk about worms for a second. Red wigglers, European nightcrawlers, African nightcrawlers. I'm going to discuss those 3 species. Canadian nightcrawlers, I'm not really going to discuss because you have to keep them refrigerated. They don't do well in the heat. So there's already a lot of big, huge Canadian nightcrawler suppliers supplying stores around here. So there's a lot easier ways to start your worm business. So the red wigglers are small worms. They're not earthworms. They're red worms, red wigglers. And they could be used as bait and as composting worms. What does that mean? It means worms eat garbage and they poop vermicast, which is it serves the same purpose as compost, but it's a lot better than compost. Okay, it's a lot better than compost. So if you're growing, potatoes, or Rhonda Sherman, the godmother of the modern vermiculture, the modern worm culture, if you will, did an experiment with turnips. She grew regular turnips, and then she put worm poop in the soil with other turnips, and the worm poop turnips grew a lot bigger, 2 to 3 times the size as regular turnips, and she was only using 10 to 20% worm poop. So 10 to 20 parts worm poop for every 80 or 90 parts soil, whatever compost they were using at the time. It's written down somewhere, but I don't know what else they were using besides worm castings. Let's be sophisticated and say worm castings. So worm doo-doo butter, DDB, is worm castings, okay? So the red wiggler is a good bait worm. It's not a great bait worm, but it's adequate. You sell them in the bait shops, it's fine. And you could also sell their poop. That means it's a delicate balance. So do you want to sell all your worms and not get any poop to sell? Or do you not want to sell any of your worms and get more poop to sell? It's a balance, because people need the worms, people need the poop. Okay. Next type of worm is European nightcrawlers. Okay, those are a kind of earthworm. They burrow deeper in the ground. Wigglers are up near the surface. European nightcrawlers are down more. Okay, they dig deeper, so you need a deeper worm bed for them to feel comfortable. So those, for some reason, a reason which I'm still not clear on, they don't make a good composting worm. They still make worm castings, but I guess it's not as fast or it's not as cost effective. It's hardly ever talked about as a composting worm. It's basically only a worm that you sell to bait shops or for pet food. Then there's the African nightcrawler. Okay, these are the big boys, the big, robust, iridescent worms. They sparkle, okay? And they are great for castings, and they are great for bait because they're big. And from a marketing standpoint, you walk in the bait shop, you say, let me see some worms. The red wigglers are tiny. The African nightcrawlers are huge. So from a marketing standpoint, you want to buy the African nightcrawlers because they're freaking massive. But they are one of the hardest types of worms to breed. Many worms you can't even breed them in captivity, so to speak. African nightcrawlers, you can breed them in captivity, in worm bins. I don't want to say captivity. These fellows have a great life. Well, until the last day when they get the hook, But they're very difficult to raise. Strict temperature controls, strict moisture controls, strict pH controls. Okay, so red wigglers, you kind of set them and forget them. European nightcrawlers, I accidentally, spilled a little guy in my garage at my Airbnb property 5 days ago, and I was there today cleaning it, and I found him alive. He wasn't doing so great, but he was still alive. So I gave him a reprieve. I took him out back behind the pool to the soft dirt, and I buried him in the soft dirt, and he's probably having a great time now. It's raining outside, plenty of stuff to do out there in the backyard. I set him free. But the African Nightcrawlers, strict temperature controls, they like it hot. Okay, I'm talking 75, 80 degrees for these guys. Or I shouldn't say guys because they're hermaphrodites. Do you know that worms are hermaphrodites? They're gender neutral, all right? Gender expression. Don't assume their gender. So you put them in the bin and you wait and they lay eggs and they grow and grow and grow. Your worms should double within 3 months. 3 months. So you start out with 1,000 and then 3 months later you could have up to 2,000 and then 3 months later you could have up to 4,000 and on and on and on. But you could sell worms today. I found 3 customers within a quarter mile of one another. Okay, walking distance to one another. So it's a balance. Do you sell them? Do you wait to sell the castings? Do you wait to sell the worms? It's an incredible business that opened my mind up now, and that's going to make our music better. Okay, it's going to make our music better because my mind is opened up. You know that saying, you can't see the forest through the trees? Well, now I could see the forest, but before I was just looking at the trees, figuring out the best way to write another song about going out tonight under the city lights, shining bright, living our best life, when everyone else is doing that, right? Everybody else is doing that. So let's do something different. You know, let's do something different. So today's a short episode. I just kind of wanted to introduce my new studio and tell you about my worms. I'm going to start doing episodes here where I go through songs that I think are really good, you know, that inspire me in one way or another, and we're going to listen to them, and we're going to vibe with them, and I'm going to tell you how I like them and why I like them and how you could apply them into doing what you're doing. But before I wrap up, I'm going to give y'all a couple side hustles or hustles that you could do that are non-ephemeral to help balance out your music. Okay, balance out your music. Number 1, worm farming. Why not? I'm doing it, and if I could do it, so could you. Look into it. If you have any questions, email me, musiclicensingpodcast@gmail.com. That's musiclicensingpodcast@gmail.com. Second thing, non-ephemeral. Land surveying. Okay? It is very difficult to get a surveyor to come out and survey your land. Some surveyors are 4 to 5 weeks booked. So if you need a survey, you need to wait 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, so there's an incredible demand for surveying, especially here in Florida, where there's so much action here these days. What a glow up. People I haven't talked to in years, you know. Wait a minute, let me check, make sure this made my Airbnb. Oh, it is. Hold on a second. Someone just checked in my Airbnb property. So anyway, making sure they're okay. So people I haven't spoke with in 4 or 5 years, you know, I see on Facebook they update their location where? To Florida. They had no connection to Florida. They had nothing to do with Florida, but now they're in Florida. Florida is experiencing a glow up and a grow up, the likes of which, as a Florida native, I haven't ever seen. You got Tom Brady with the Bucks winning Super Bowls. You got Tampa Bay Lightning winning the Stanley Cup. You got Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Oh, they changed their name to the Tampa Bay Rays. Devil Rays. Almost winning a World Series. It's great. So, long story long, surveying, especially here in Florida, there is a huge demand. The property I just closed on Friday, catching a survey, you know, it was a little difficult. Because there's not, you know, I think I had 2 names I could call to do that survey. And everyone else they had to tell the realtors, we can't take any more phone calls for the foreseeable future because they had so much business coming in. That's wild. So if you want to look into surveying, property surveying, land surveying, that could be something cool. Another thing is Airbnb. Oh, I gotta fix the sound in this place, don't I? There's chairs creaking. Airbnb property management. Okay, so someone else gets the Airbnb. Someone else takes the risk of the property and the home and all that jazz, and you manage the day-to-day business of the Airbnb. Okay, you take a piece of the action, 15% of the action, but you don't have any of the risk. Try that. Start out with 1 property, work to 2 or 3, especially out there in Joshua Tree area, Palm Springs area, California. Blowing up. Tiny houses renting for $350 to $400 a day. My house rents the high season averages about $250 a day, and that's good for the area. And those houses out in the desert in California, $350, $400 a night. Wild stuff. So send me your side hustles. Oh, also my Amazon affiliate link, they denied my participation in the affiliate link, so I reapplied. They denied it again. I don't know what the problem is, but let's not care about that. Forget it. I think they still owe me $23. If you want to support the channel, subscribe to the channel, like, share, right? We're building a community here. And the harder I go with my shows, the harder I go, I mean real stuff, not just talking about, if you want to make good sync music, write about going out tonight under the city light. No. The more y'all subscribe and like, the realer I'll get. I'll go deep. We will go deep. We'll go deep. Also, John Fulford Music presents Cool Chords Volume 1. Link in the description. Totally free, royalty free. We don't need your email address. We don't need any info. Just click on the link, download it, start doing songs with it. Send me the music that you do with it so I can check it out, so I could vibe with it. Coming up in subsequent episodes, we're going to do the worm thing on my Hollywood John channel. After this, I'm going to keep this channel pretty much music only. My other Hollywood John channel will be my real estate and my worms and maybe a little bit of music thrown in. Then we're going to play some music here and vibe with the songs. I'm going to tell you why I think they're syncable, why they inspire me, things like that. Now, we're going deep on those. There's going to be a lot of songs that you have not heard. But I'm going to get dinged on the copyright to those songs. I won't be able to ad rev those videos, so please like, share, subscribe. That would mean the world to me, and we will go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Then I'm going to talk about, we got to do an episode about the value chain. Okay, the value chain in music. Why prices are going down, why your checks are getting smaller, and what you could do about it to make your checks go up. Okay, what you could do to make your checks go up. And for a lot of y'all, it's going to be good news. With some of y'all, it's going to be bad news, but that's all right. It is what it is. So with that, I'm going to let y'all go. Enjoy your weekend, enjoy your week, enjoy your holiday, all that good stuff. Email me, musiclicensingpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll catch you next time.